Ottawa is preparing a crackdown on one of the biggest black markets in the world, and that is animal smuggling and the trade in animal parts. Michael Serapio's on that story for us this morning. You know, I said one of the biggest. That might just give people pause. How serious a problem is this, Michael?
Well, certainly when we talk about this season, Heather, officials right now are very worried that we're on the cusp of a very busy year. And that is because this year alone, by April already, officials had seized over 100 illegal animals and animal parts. Take a look at the board right now. So more than 100, the average being about 330 seizures a year. The trade usually doesn't take off until summer, which means we could be looking at a very busy season. In fact, Canadian wildlife officials say wildlife crimes have spiked in the last 10 to 15 years, so the department is shifting more resources to its seizure teams. And to be clear, what we're talking about here is wildlife crimes that include poaching, smuggling, and the trafficking of animals and plants, and that includes the smuggling in of exotic animals like Canadians trying to obtain as pets, for example, snakes, the illegal import and export of animal parts like bear paws or polar bear carcasses, the legal trade of meat like shark fin, which people have been debating, or products made out of endangered animals made into briefcases or handbags, a trade that does not concern itself with animal welfare nor the impact of that trade on endangered species. I want you to take a listen right now to the Director of Wildlife Enforcement for Environment and Climate Change Canada.
What is important is that wildlife crime is actually the fourth largest crime by value in the world. It's worth some $150 billion US each year. When you compare it to other crime groups, it's fourth in value following narcotics, counterfeiting, and human trafficking. So this is a huge economic impact, but it also impacts ecosystems and it impacts species, especially endangered species.
I mean, that tells us exactly the scope of the situation here, Michael, but let's pick up on that last point, the impact on endangered species. What do we know about that?
Well, I'll bring in one example here, Heather, because often cited is an example of a seizure that involved conch meat. And if people aren't familiar by conch, take a look at it because people are more familiar with the shell than the meat itself. But back in 2007, some 27 tons of conch meat was seized by Canadian officials. It was worth millions of dollars. And one biologist estimated that seizure alone accounted for about 10% of the global population for one endangered species of conch. Now, wildlife officials say most of the animals smuggled into Canada are intended for the pet trade. Dead animals are mostly for decor. Animal parts are consumed. And officials are hoping the more Canadians become aware of the trade's brutality, Heather, then the less likely they might be to seek out these types of animals or animal parts.
Michael Serapio, thank you very much.
You're welcome.